"Please, sir," the child cried. "My mother never came back yesterday." The billionaire stepped into the frozen night, and what he discovered transformed their worlds forever. "Please." The word cut through the frozen October air like a knife through silk. Rowan Thatcher stopped mid-step, her hand already reaching for her phone to summon her car service. She turned slowly, the sleet stinging her face, and saw him. A small boy, maybe 7 years old, standing beneath a broken deli awning with snow melting in his dark hair. His jacket was too thin, his sneakers were soaked through, and his eyes, those eyes held a kind of terror that money could never understand and privilege could never imagine. "Please," he said again, his voice breaking. "I need help. My dad didn't come home last night." Rowan Thatcher was a woman who made billion-dollar decisions before breakfast. She had 17 board members who answered to her, 4,000 employees across 3 continents, and a penthouse apartment that overlooked the city like a throne room in the clouds. She had built an empire from nothing, climbed every ladder, shattered every ceiling. She was untouchable, unreachable, unstoppable. But in that moment, standing on a freezing street at midnight with a child's desperate voice echoing in her ears, none of that mattered. What happened next would change 3 lives forever. But before I tell you how a 7-year-old boy named Kit Brennan would completely dismantle a billionaire's carefully constructed world and rebuild it into something she never knew she needed, I have to ask you something. Have you ever walked past someone who needed help? Have you ever felt that pull between the safety of your routine and the risk of getting involved? Have you ever wondered what would happen if you just stopped, turned around, and said yes to a stranger's plea? This is a story about the moment everything changes, about the night a woman who had everything discovered she had nothing that actually mattered, about a father fighting for his life while his son fought to find him, and about the truth that family is not something you are born into. It is something you build, brick by brick, choice by choice, in the frozen darkness when it would be so much easier to just keep walking. But here is what you need to understand before we go any further. This is not just a story. This is a mirror. And if you have ever felt successful but empty, powerful but alone, rich in everything except the things that make life worth living, then what happens next is going to hit you right in the center of your chest. So do me a favor right now. Hit that subscribe button. Ring the bell. Because what you are about to hear is not just going to entertain you. It is going to challenge everything you think you know about success, about family, and about what it means to truly have it all. Drop a comment and tell me, what would you do if a child stopped you on a frozen street and asked for help? Would you stop? Would you listen? Would you be brave enough to let that moment change you? I am Dr. Phillips, and this is Love and Twilights. Now let me take you into the night that changed everything. 12 hours earlier, Rowan Thatcher's alarm went off at 4:45 in the morning, not because she had to be anywhere, but because she chose to be awake before the world woke up, before the noise started, before anyone else could claim a piece of her time. The penthouse was silent except for the hum of climate control and the distant murmur of the city 37 floors below. She rose from bed, her feet touching cool Italian marble, and walked through rooms so meticulously designed they could have been in a magazine. In fact, they had been. Architectural Digest, 2 years ago. The journalist had called her space a temple to modern minimalism. What the journalist had not mentioned was how empty it felt. Rowan made coffee in a kitchen where every appliance cost more than most people's cars. She drank it black, standing at the floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked Madison Avenue, watching the city slowly illuminate itself like a machine powering up. Somewhere down there, people were waking up to families, to noise, to chaos, to mess, to life. Up here, everything was perfect, controlled, quiet, and so lonely. But Rowan had learned a long time ago that loneliness was just the price of security, and security was all that mattered. She thought about her mother sometimes, in these early morning hours before the armor went on. Margaret Thatcher had been a housekeeper, a waitress, a factory worker, whatever paid, enough to keep the lights on after Rowan's father disappeared when she was 6. Rowan could still remember her mother's hands, red and cracked from chemicals and hard work, tucking her into bed in their 1-bedroom apartment that smelled like mildew and hope. "You are going to be someone," her mother used to whisper. "You are going to have everything I never did." And Rowan had delivered on that promise. She had clawed her way through state school on scholarships, worked 3 jobs to put herself through business school, slept 4 hours a night for a decade while building Thatcher and Lane Technologies from a startup in a basement. to a publicly traded company worth $3.7 billion. She had made it. She had won. So why did winning feel like this? Her phone buzzed. A message from her assistant, Nina. Good morning. 7:30 meeting with the Singapore team confirmed. 9:15 with legal regarding the Patterson acquisition. 11 o'clock board presentation. Lunch blocked for prep. 2 o'clock with investors. 4:30 interview with Forbes. 6 o'clock gala prep. 8 o'clock charity dinner. Car waiting at 7:45 a.m. Rowan read it without emotion. Just another day. Another 16 hours of meetings and decisions and performances. She was very good at performing. The confident CEO, the visionary leader, the woman who had it all. She showered, dressed in a charcoal suit that cost $4,000, applied minimal makeup, with the precision of someone who had learned that beauty was just another tool in negotiation. By 6:30, she was reviewing market reports. By 7, she had approved 3 project proposals and denied 2. By 7:45, she was stepping into the back of a black car that smelled like leather and ambition. Good morning, Miss Thatcher, her driver said. Morning, James. The day moved like it always did. Fast, efficient, profitable. The Singapore meeting went well. Legal had concerns, but she bulldozed through them with logic and precedent. The board presentation was flawless. She had practiced it 4 times the night before, anticipating every question, preparing every answer. They approved her proposal unanimously. Another victory to add to the collection. Lunch was a protein shake at her desk. The investor meeting ran long, but ended with commitments for another $200 million in funding. The Forbes interview was the usual nonsense. What is it like being one of the youngest female billionaires in tech? How do you balance work and personal life? Do you ever want a family? She had answered those questions 1,000 times, always with a smile. Always with the same carefully crafted responses that revealed nothing and satisfied everyone. Balance is about priorities, she said to the young journalist who looked at her like she was some kind of superhero. I prioritize impact. As for family, I have 4,000 employees I am responsible for. That is family enough. The journalist had nodded, scribbling notes, completely missing the hollow ring in Rowan's voice. By 6 o'clock, Rowan was back in her office, reviewing notes for the charity gala. Another performance. Another evening of smiling at people she barely knew, writing checks to causes she barely had time to understand, networking with other successful people who were just as isolated as she was. Nina knocked and entered without waiting for permission. They had been working together for 8 years. Formalities had disappeared somewhere around year 3. You look exhausted, Nina said, setting down a folder. I am fine. When is the last time you had dinner with someone? Like an actual meal, with conversation, not a business dinner, not a networking event, a real dinner. Rowan looked up, her expression carefully neutral. Why? Because I have worked for you for 8 years, and I have never once heard you talk about a friend, or a date, or anything that is not work. I don't have time for that. Everyone has time. You just choose not to make it. Nina, was there something you needed? Nina sighed, recognizing the wall going up. Just wanted to remind you that the gala starts at 8. Car is scheduled for 7:30. And, she hesitated, you got another invitation to your business school reunion. 30th one you have ignored, if I am counting correctly. Rowan did not look up from her papers. Decline it. You know, someday you are going to regret not letting people in. Rowan's hand paused over the document she was signing. For just a moment, something flickered across her face, something that looked almost like pain. Then it was gone, replaced by the smooth mask she wore so well. Thank you, Nina. That will be all. Nina left, closing the door quietly behind her. Rowan sat in the silence of her office, surrounded by awards and accolades and proof of success, and felt absolutely nothing. The charity gala was exactly what she expected. Beautiful people in beautiful clothes saying beautiful things that meant nothing. Rowan smiled, shook hands, gave a brief speech about the importance of funding education for underprivileged children. The irony was not lost on her. She had been one of those children once. Now she was writing checks to help others escape the same trap, while she had built herself a different kind of prison. By 11:30, she was done. She made her excuses, slipped out a side entrance, and found herself standing alone on Madison Avenue while her driver circled the block. The October air had turned bitter. Rain had become sleet, coating everything in a thin layer of ice that glittered under the streetlights. Rowan pulled her cashmere coat tighter and checked her phone. 3 missed calls from investors. 12 emails marked urgent. A text from Nina. Don't forget you have an 8 a.m. meeting tomorrow. Get some sleep. Sleep. Rowan could not remember the last time she had slept more than 5 hours. Could not remember the last time she had woken up feeling rested instead of just functional. She started walking. Her car was 2 blocks away, and she suddenly could not bear the thought of sitting in traffic, trapped in that leather-scented silence with nothing but her own thoughts for company. The sleet stung her face, but she welcomed it. At least it was something to feel. That is when she heard it. That small, broken voice cutting through the storm. Please. Rowan turned, and her entire life turned with her. The boy was small, thin, shivering so hard his whole body seemed to vibrate. His dark hair was plastered to his forehead, melting snow dripping down his face like tears. But it was his eyes that stopped her. Dark brown, wide with fear and desperate hope. The eyes of a child who had run out of options and was making one last, terrifying gamble on the kindness of a stranger. Please, he said again, stepping out from beneath the broken awning. I need help. My dad didn't come home last night. Rowan's first instinct was to call someone. The police, social services, anyone whose job it was to handle this. Her second instinct was to keep walking. This was not her problem. She had a warm apartment waiting, a schedule to keep, a life that did not have room for complications. But then the boy took another step closer, and Rowan saw something in his face that punched straight through every wall she had built. She saw herself, 7 years old, standing outside a different building in a different city, waiting for a father who was never coming home. The memory hit her so hard she actually gasped. Her father had left for work one morning and simply never returned. No explanation, no goodbye, just gone. And her mother had cried silently in the bathroom while 7-year-old Rowan sat on the couch, clutching her favorite stuffed bear, wondering what she had done wrong. This boy was that same age, wearing that same expression, asking for the help that no one had given her family. Rowan knelt down slowly, ignoring the cold seeping through her expensive coat. Hey, she said softly. Hey, it is okay. I am going to help you. What is your name? Kit. His voice was barely a whisper. Kit Brennan. Kit, I am Rowan. Can you tell me what happened? The words came tumbling out, fast and panicked. My dad, he always comes home by 7. Always. He makes me dinner and helps with my homework, and we watch Jeopardy together. But last night, he didn't come home. I waited all day, and our neighbor, Miss Chen, she said she couldn't help because she has. Her own kids and I didn't know what to do, and his voice cracked, and I am really scared. Rowan felt something crack inside her chest, a fissure in the armor she had worn for so long she had forgotten what it felt like to be without it. Okay, Kit, okay. We are going to figure this out together. When did you last see your dad? Yesterday morning. He made me pancakes. Thursday pancakes. He always makes pancakes on Thursday. Kit's lower lip trembled. He promised he would be home to help with my science project. He promised. Where do you live? Kit pointed down the street toward a cluster of older apartment buildings 3 blocks south. Buildings that Rowan passed every single day in her chauffeured car without ever really seeing them. And there is no one else? Your mom? Kit shook his head, and something in the gesture, resigned and matter-of-fact, broke Rowan's heart. It is just me and Dad. It has always been just us. The sleet was coming down harder now. Kit's shivering had become violent, his lips tinged blue. Rowan made a decision, not with her head, which was screaming about liability and complications, and all the very good reasons to call the authorities and walk away, but with something deeper, something she had buried under years of ambition and self-protection. Come with me, she said, extending her hand. We are going to your apartment first, and then we are going to find your dad. I promise. Kit stared at her hand. She could see him weighing the stranger danger warnings every kid learns against the crushing fear of being alone. She could see the exact moment he decided to trust her. His small, ice-cold fingers wrapped around hers. Okay, he whispered. They walked together through the freezing rain. Rowan shortened her stride to match his small steps. She noticed he was trying very hard not to cry, his jaw clenched tight, his breathing deliberate and controlled. Too young to have to be this brave, she thought. Too young to be carrying this much fear. What grade are you in, Kit? Second. His voice was small but steady. I am 7 3/4. 7 3/4. Very important, that 3/4. Kit nodded seriously. My birthday is in January. I will be 8. That is when Dad said I could get a library card with my own name on it. That is a good present. Yeah. Kit looked down at his soaked sneakers. Dad says libraries are the best invention humans ever made. Free books, free knowledge, free hope. Those are his words. Free hope. Rowan felt that crack in her chest widen. Your dad sounds like a smart man. He is the smartest. Kit's voice filled with fierce pride. He works really hard. 2 jobs sometimes. But he always comes home. Always. He wouldn't just, the pride wavered, he wouldn't just leave me. I believe you, Rowan said quietly. And we are going to find him. The apartment building was worse than she had imagined, and Rowan had grown up poor enough to imagine quite a lot. The front door hung crooked on its hinges, the intercom system long since broken. Just a tangle of wires hanging from the wall like mechanical intestines. Inside, the hallway smelled like mildew, cooking grease, and something else. Desperation, maybe. The particular scent of people barely holding on. They climbed narrow stairs with cracked tiles and flickering overhead lights that buzzed like dying insects. Kit led her to the 4th floor, down a hallway where someone's television blared too loud, and a baby cried behind thin walls. This one, Kit said, stopping at apartment 4C. The door was unlocked. Kit pushed it open, and Rowan followed him inside, and what she saw made her throat tighten. The apartment was tiny. A living room barely big enough for a couch and a small television. A kitchen that was more of an alcove, with a 2-burner stove and a refrigerator that hummed too loud. A hallway that probably led to a single bedroom and bathroom. But it was clean. Meticulously, carefully clean. The couch cushions were arranged just so. The kitchen counter was clear except for a single coffee mug drying in a dish rack. The floor was worn but recently swept. And the refrigerator, that old humming refrigerator, was covered in drawings. Rowan stepped closer, drawn by the explosion of color in this monochrome space. Crayon drawings, marker drawings, one careful pencil sketch, all signed Kit in careful letters. Most of them showed 2 stick figures, one tall and one small, holding hands. Some were labeled me and Dad. Others showed scenes, playing catch, making pancakes, reading books, a whole life captured in a child's art gallery. We draw together on Sundays, Kit said quietly, coming to stand beside her. Dad says art is important, that it helps you remember the good days when bad days come. Rowan looked at those drawings and felt something shift fundamentally inside her. This was not poverty. This was love. This was a father who worked himself to exhaustion but still made time for Thursday pancakes and Sunday art projects. This was a child who was cherished, protected, prioritized. This was everything Rowan had built her empire to prove she did not need. And she realized, with a clarity that was almost painful, that she had been lying to herself for a very long time. Okay, she said, pulling out her phone. Let me start making some calls. Do you know where your dad works? The distribution center, on River Street. He loads trucks. Rowan searched for the number and dialed. It rang 4 times before a bored voice answered. River Street, night desk. Hi, I am trying to locate one of your employees. Avery Brennan. He was supposed to be home yesterday evening, and his son is very worried. She heard the click of a keyboard. Brennan. Yeah, he was on the 2 to 10 shift yesterday. Clocked out at 10:15. Did he leave? Did anyone see him go? Lady, I do not keep track of 300 workers. He clocked out. That is all I know. The line went dead. Rowan resisted the urge to throw her phone. Instead, she looked at Kit, whose eyes were locked on her face with desperate hope. She crouched down to his level again. Okay, he left work about an hour and a half after his shift ended. That is good. It means we have a time frame. Now I'm going to call the hospitals, and we are going to find him. But first, when did you last eat? Kit thought about it. Lunch at school. We had chicken nuggets. Rowan checked her watch. That was 11 hours ago. She moved to the kitchen and opened the refrigerator, her chest tightening at what she found. Sparse, but organized. Some eggs, half a gallon of milk, bread, some deli meat, condiments lined up with military precision, a container of leftover rice, This was the refrigerator of someone carefully managing every dollar. She made Kit a sandwich while calling hospitals on speakerphone. She had learned to multitask a long time ago. Mercy General first. No John does matching that description. St. Anthony's next. Nothing. Harbor View. She was expecting another no when the voice on the other end paused. We have an unidentified male, mid-30s, brought in around 11 p.m. last night. Vehicular accident victim near the River Street Junction. He was unconscious when he arrived. Rowan's blood went cold. Her hand froze halfway through spreading mayonnaise. Is he alive? Critical, but stable. Are you family? His son is with me. We are coming now. She hung up and looked at Kit, whose face had gone white. She would not lie to him. Children knew when adults were lying, and they deserved better. Your dad was in an accident. He is at the hospital. The doctors are taking care of him and we are going to see him right now. Is he going to die? Kit's voice was barely audible. They said he is stable. That means he is strong. He is fighting, just like you have been fighting. Rowan held out her hand again. Come on. Let me get you into dry clothes first, then we go. Kit led her to the bedroom. It was small, dominated by a double bed with a patchwork quilt. On one side was a stack of library books. On the other, a small shelf with 3 action figures and a rock collection. A child's half of a shared space. Kit changed quickly into dry jeans and a hoodie, while Rowan turned away to give him privacy. When he was ready, they left the apartment. Kit grabbed a scarf from a hook by the door, wrapping it around his neck. My dad's, he said. It smells like him. Rowan's car was still circling. She called James, her driver, and within 3 minutes the sleek black Tesla pulled up. James's eyes widened when he saw Kit, but he said nothing, just opened the door. Harbor View Hospital, Rowan said. Fast as you can. Kit climbed into the back seat, his eyes wide as he took in the leather interior, the screens, the absolute luxury of it. Rowan slid in beside him. She found a blanket, kept in the car for cold mornings, and wrapped it around his shoulders. Kit pulled it tight, his small hands gripping the soft fabric. The drive took 23 minutes through rain-slick streets. Kit was silent the entire way, staring out the window at the city passing by. Rowan kept glancing at him, this small, brave boy who had gone searching in a storm because his father had not come home. Have you ever been in an accident? Kit asked suddenly, his voice small in the darkness of the car. Rowan thought about how to answer. Not a car accident, no, but other kinds, yes. When I was about your age, my dad left. Just one day he was gone. So I understand how scary this is. Did he come back? No. Rowan's voice was steady. He didn't. Kit was quiet for a moment. I am sorry. Me too. But you know what? My mom, she was amazing. She took care of me all by herself. And we made it through. Whatever happens tonight, Kit, you are not alone. Okay? Kit nodded, his eyes glassy with unshed tears. Okay. The emergency room was chaos. Bright fluorescent lights, the smell of antiseptic and fear, people, in various states of distress scattered across hard plastic chairs. Rowan strode to the desk with Kit's hand firmly in hers. Avery Brennan, she said to the nurse behind the counter. He was brought in last night from an accident. This is his son. The nurse's expression softened immediately when she saw Kit. Let me check. More typing. He is in the ICU, 2nd floor. Let me get someone to take you up. They waited in chairs that were too hard under lights that were too bright. Kit sat very still, his feet not quite touching the floor, his eyes fixed on the double doors marked authorized. Personnel only. Rowan sat beside him, and on impulse, reached over and took his hand. Kit's fingers wrapped around hers and held on tight. A doctor appeared 15 minutes later, still in surgical scrubs, exhaustion etched into every line of his face. You are here for Brennan? Rowan stood. This is his son, Kit. How is he? The doctor knelt down to Kit's level, and Rowan respected him immediately for that small act of recognition. Your dad was in a car accident. He has some broken ribs, a concussion, and some internal bruising. But he is going to be okay. He is sleeping right now because we gave him medicine to help him heal and manage the pain. Would you like to see him? Can he? Kit's voice was small. Maybe. Sometimes people can hear even when they are sleeping. Would you like to try talking to him? Kit nodded, mute with fear and hope. They followed the doctor through sterile hallways that smelled like disinfectant and desperation, past rooms where machines beeped and people fought battles Rowan could not see, to a small room at the end where monitors glowed and in 4 stands stood guard. And there, lying in the bed, was Avery Brennan. Rowan had built an image in her mind. She was not sure what she had expected, but it was not this. Avery looked young, maybe early 30s, with dark hair and the kind of lean strength that came from physical labor. His face was bruised, a bandage across his forehead, his chest wrapped to support broken ribs. But even unconscious, even battered, there was something about him that radiated warmth. Something that made sense of Kit's fierce love and loyalty. Kit approached the bed slowly, as if afraid he might break something. Then he reached out with one small hand and took his father's larger one. "Dad? It is me. Kit. I found help. This lady Rowan, she helped me find you. You are going to be okay." His voice cracked and the tears he had been holding back finally came. "I was really scared, Dad. I didn't know what to do. But I remembered what you said. Brennans do not give up. So I went looking for help. And I found her." Rowan stood back, giving them space, but her throat was tight and her eyes were burning. She watched this small boy, who had been so brave, finally allowing himself to cry now that his father was found. And she watched Avery's hand, still unconscious, curl slightly around his son's fingers. That small movement, unconscious and instinctive, said everything about the bond between them. Even in sleep, even in pain, Avery Brennan was reaching for his son. The doctor stepped beside Rowan. "You are a friend of the family?" "No," Rowan said quietly. "I just met Kit tonight. He found me on the street asking for help." The doctor's eyebrows rose. "And you brought him here? Stayed with him? What else would I do? You would be surprised." The doctor's voice was tired. "A lot of people would have called it in and walked away. I could not do that." "Well, he is lucky Kit found you. The father, too. He was alert enough when he came in to be upset that he could not contact his son. Kept trying to tell us about Kit. We could not find any emergency contact information in the system. You probably saved that kid from a very traumatic night in the system." Rowan looked at Kit, still holding his father's hand, still talking softly about school and homework, and the science project, and how he had been so scared, but he had remembered to be brave. "I think he saved me too," she said, so quietly she was not sure the doctor heard. The hours that followed blurred together in a strange, dreamlike sequence. Rowan called her assistant at 2 in the morning. Nina answered on the second ring, instantly alert. "What is wrong?" "Cancel tomorrow. All of it. Something came up. Are you okay?" Rowan looked at Kit, who had finally fallen asleep in a chair beside his father's bed, his head resting on the mattress, his hand still holding Avery's. "I will be," she said. "Just clear the day." She bought Kit dry socks from the hospital gift shop, since his were still soaked, a warm sweatshirt, a sandwich and juice from the cafeteria. She sat with him in the ICU waiting room when the nurses gently suggested he take a break, and when he finally fell asleep against her shoulder around 4 in the morning, she did not move. She sat there, this woman in a $4,000 suit holding a 7-year-old boy she had met 6 hours ago, and felt more purposeful than she had in a decade of closing deals. She thought about her mother, about all those years of struggle, about coming home to an empty apartment because her mom was working a 3rd shift, about eating cereal for dinner, about wearing the same jeans until they were 2 inches too short because there was no money for new ones. She had spent her entire adult life running from that poverty, building walls of wealth so high that hunger and fear and uncertainty could never touch her again. But somewhere in that climb, she had left behind something essential. She had left behind connection. She had left behind purpose that was not measured in stock prices. She had left behind the ability to just be human with another human. Until tonight, until a child's voice in the darkness had stopped her, had made her remember. When dawn broke gray and cold through the hospital windows, Avery Brennan opened his eyes. The first sound he made was a groan of pain. The second was a word. "Kit, I am here, Dad." Kit scrambled up from Rowan's shoulder, suddenly wide awake. "I am right here." Avery's eyes found his son, and the relief that flooded his face was so profound it hurt to witness. "You are okay," he rasped, his voice rough from intubation and medication. "You are okay. I am okay. You are okay." Kit's voice trembled. "I found help, Dad. I remembered what you said about being brave. And I found help. Avery's gaze shifted then, tracking from his son to the woman standing just behind him. Confusion flickered across his battered face. Who? Rowan stepped forward slowly, not wanting to alarm him. My name is Rowan Thatcher. Your son found me last night when you did not come home. I helped him find you. You. Avery's eyes narrowed slightly, trying to process through pain and medication. You stayed with him? I did. All night? Yes. Why? It was such a simple question, such a complicated answer. Rowan looked at Kit, then back at Avery. Because he asked for help. And because a long time ago I needed help and no one stopped. I was not going to let that happen to him. Avery stared at her for a long moment. She could see him trying to reconcile her expensive clothes, her polished appearance, with the fact that she was here in a hospital room at dawn with his son. She could see the wariness, the pride, the confusion, and underneath it all, the bone-deep exhaustion of a man who had been fighting alone for so long that kindness looked like a trap. Thank you, he said finally, his voice breaking. Thank you for keeping him safe. You are welcome. Rowan's voice was steady. The doctor says you are going to recover fully. Broken ribs, concussion, some bruising, but you will heal. The accident. Avery closed his eyes, clearly trying to remember. Someone ran a red light. I swerved, hit a pole. My phone, it was destroyed in the impact. I could not call. I could not, his voice fractured. I could not tell him I was okay. I know, but he is safe now, and you are going to be fine. Avery looked at his son, and the naked love and guilt on his face was almost too intimate to witness. I am sorry, buddy. I am so sorry you were scared. It is okay, Dad. Kit climbed carefully onto the edge of the hospital bed, mindful of the wires and tubes. You are okay. That is all that matters. Avery managed to lift one arm, wrapping it around his son, and Kit curled into his father, sighed with the kind of complete trust that only comes from years of consistent love. Rowan looked away, giving them privacy, and found herself blinking back tears she had not cried in years. A nurse came in to check vitals and adjust medication. A doctor followed shortly after to assess Avery's consciousness and responsiveness. Everything looked good, they said. He would need to stay for observation, probably 3 or 4 days, but he was going to be fine. Rowan excused herself to make some calls. She stepped into the hallway, pulled out her phone, and started doing what she did best, solving problems. First called Nina. I need you to do something for me. Arrange for a cleaning service to go to this address. She rattled off Kit's apartment number. Stock the refrigerator. Fix the heating if it is broken. Make sure the utilities are paid through the end of the year. And Nina, be discreet. No labels, no company names, just do it. What is going on, Rowan? I will explain later. Just do it. Second call to her lawyer. I need you to look into emergency guardianship protocols. Specifically, what rights does a non-relative have to care for a minor child while the parent is hospitalized? Yes, I will hold. She got her answer. Limited, unless the parent consented. She would need Avery's permission to officially be responsible for Kit while he recovered. Third call to the social worker on duty at the hospital. She explained the situation, verified her identity, offered to be listed as temporary emergency contact if Avery consented. The social worker was surprised, clearly, but agreed to bring the paperwork. When Rowan returned to the room, Avery was awake and talking quietly with Kit about school and homework and the science project that was due tomorrow. Kit looked worried. I have not finished it, Dad. I was supposed to glue the last pieces, but... Hey, Avery's voice was gentle. It is okay. You can ask for an extension. Your teacher will understand. Actually, Rowan said from the doorway, what if we finished it today? Kit can explain what needs to be done, and I can help him with the gluing and assembly. Then you do not have to worry about it. Both Brennans turned to look at her. Kit's face lit up. Really? If your dad says it is okay. Avery looked at her with an expression she could not quite read. Gratitude, yes, but also wariness. Also something that looked like fear. You have already done so much. You do not have to. I know I do not have to. Rowan met his eyes steadily. I want to, if you are comfortable with that. Avery was quiet for a long moment. She could see the war happening inside him. Pride versus need, independence versus reality. Finally, he nodded. Okay, Thank you. And there was one more thing. The social worker is going to bring some paperwork. While you are here recovering, Kit needs someone listed as his temporary guardian. For school permissions, medical decisions if needed, that kind of thing. If you are comfortable with it, I would like to be that person. Just until you are released. You want to be his guardian? Avery's voice was careful, controlled. You met him 6 hours ago. I know how it sounds. Rowan stepped closer to the bed, her voice steady. I know this is unusual. I know you have every reason to be suspicious. But right now, you are going to be here for several days. Kit needs to go to school, needs meals, needs a stable place to stay. I have the resources and the time to provide that. I am not trying to take anything from you, Avery. I am just trying to help until you can be there for him yourself. Avery looked at his son. Kit, buddy, can you go get a snack from the cafeteria? Ask the nurse to show you where it is. But Dad, just for a few minutes. I need to talk to Miss Thatcher alone. Kit hesitated, then nodded. He slid off the bed carefully and walked out, glancing back once before disappearing down the hallway. As soon as he was gone, Avery turned to Rowan, and his expression had hardened. I need you to understand something. I do not know who you are. I do not know what you want. But Kit is my entire world. I have spent 7 years making sure he is safe, fed, loved. I have worked myself to exhaustion to make sure he never feels like he is a burden or an obligation. So before I sign anything, before I let a complete stranger into his life, I need to know why you are really doing this. Rowan could have been offended. Should have been, maybe. But instead, she respected him for it. This was a father protecting his child. This was exactly what good parents did. She pulled a chair closer to his bed and sat down, meeting his eyes directly. When I was 7, my father left. No explanation, no goodbye, just gone. My mother worked herself literally to death trying to give me a better life. She cleaned houses, waited tables, worked overnight shifts at a factory. I barely saw her. When I did, she was exhausted. We lived in a 1-bedroom apartment with mold in the bathroom and heat that only worked half the time. I wore the same 3 outfits to school for 2 years because there was no money for clothes. I ate free lunch at school and cereal for dinner at home. Avery's expression softened slightly, listening. My mom died when I was 17. Heart attack. The doctor said it was stress, overwork, years of sacrificing her health because she could not afford to take a day off. I was almost an adult by then, so I did not go into the system. I just finished high school, got scholarships, worked my way through college and business school. I built a company, made a fortune, did everything I swore I would do to never be poor and powerless again. Why are you telling me this? Because tonight, when your son stopped me on the street, I saw myself. I saw that same fear, that same desperation, and I realized that I've spent 20 years building an empire, and I do not have a single person in my life who would miss me if I disappeared tomorrow. I have money, Avery. I have power and success and everything I thought mattered. But I do not have what you have. I do not have someone who loves me the way Kit loves you. I do not have purpose beyond profit margins. She leaned forward, her voice intense. I am not doing this because I pity you. I am doing this because your son reminded me what actually matters, and because I have the resources to help, and it would be morally bankrupt to walk away when I can make a difference. I do not want anything from you. I do not want to take your son or replace you or play savior. I just want to help a good father and a brave kid get through a hard moment. That is all. Avery stared at her for a long time. She could see him weighing her words, looking for the lie, the angle, the hidden cost. Finally he spoke, his voice rough. If I say yes, you have to promise me something. Anything. You have to promise that the second I am out of here, I take over again. That this is temporary. That you will not make Kit feel like what I provide is not enough. Rowan felt that crack in her chest widen into a chasm. I promise. What you provide is everything. I have spent my entire life chasing what you have and did not even know it. Avery's eyes glistened. He looked away, blinking hard. Okay, you can be his temporary guardian, but we do this my way. You do not spoil him. You do not buy him things to make up for what we do not have. You just keep him safe and fed and get him to school. Can you do that? Yes. And you keep me updated. Every day. I want to know how he is, what he is doing, if he is okay. Of course. Avery nodded slowly, then reached for the call button. When the nurse came in, he asked for the social worker. The paperwork was brought, explained, and signed. And just like that, Rowan Thatcher became the temporary legal guardian of a 7-year-old boy she had met in a storm. Kit returned with a chocolate pudding cup and a tentative smile. "Everything okay?" "Everything is okay, buddy." Avery managed to smile despite the obvious pain. "Miss Thatcher is going to stay with you while I am here getting better. You're going to stay with her, go to school, and be on your best behavior. Okay?" Kit looked between them, processing. "I'm not going into foster care." "No, you are staying with Rowan, and I will be out of here in a few days, and then everything goes back to normal." Kit turned to Rowan. "You are really going to let me stay with you?" "If you want to." Rowan's voice was gentle. "I have a guest room, and I work from home a lot, so I can help with homework and make sure you get to school. Your dad will be just fine here, and you can visit every single day. Does that sound okay?" Kit nodded, then surprised her by stepping forward and hugging her. "Thank you," he whispered. Rowan's arms came around him automatically, and she felt something in her chest that she had not felt in years. Something warm and terrifying and absolutely essential. "You are welcome, Kit." They spent the rest of the morning at the hospital. Rowan made phone calls, rearranging her entire week. Kit sat with his father, talking about school and friends and the science project about solar energy that was half finished at home. Around noon, Rowan gently suggested they go back to the apartment to get Kit's things and finish the project. "Go," Avery said, though Rowan could see it cost him to let Kit leave. "I will be right here when you get back." The drive back to the apartment felt different in daylight. Kit was more talkative now, the terror of the night before easing into something that looked almost like hope. He told Rowan about his teacher, Miss Anderson, who let him help feed the class fish, about his best friend Marcus who could burp the alphabet, about how he wanted to be an astronaut or maybe a librarian when he grew up, because both jobs involved exploring new worlds. Rowan listened, really listened, and realized she could not remember the last time she had had a conversation that was not about business, could not remember the last time someone had shared something with her just because they wanted to, not because they needed something. The apartment looked different too. Someone had already been there. The heating was fixed, humming quietly. The refrigerator was fully stocked with healthy food and kid-friendly options. The lights all worked. There was even a new blanket folded on the couch. Kit noticed immediately. "Did you do that?" "I had some help," Rowan said carefully, remembering Avery's request not to make him feel inadequate. "I just wanted to make sure everything was working while your dad recovers." Kit walked to the refrigerator and opened it, his eyes going wide at the sight of fresh fruit, juice boxes, sandwich materials, actual groceries. "We have not had this much food since." He stopped himself. "Since a while. Your dad has been working really hard. Sometimes hard-working people just need a little help. That does not mean they are not doing an amazing job. It just means they do not have to do it alone for a few days." Kit nodded slowly, then looked up at her. "Are you rich?" Rowan considered how to answer. "Yes, I have a lot of money." "Is that why you are helping us? Because you feel bad for us?" "No, I am helping because your dad is a good man who got unlucky, and you are a brave kid who deserves stability. Money is just a tool, Kit. It does not make someone good or bad. It is what you do with it that matters. What do you do with yours?" Rowan paused. Until last night, she thought, not enough. "I run a company that makes technology. I employ a lot of people, and I am learning that maybe I should do more to help people like you and your dad. People who work hard and just need a little support. I think that would be good," Kit said with the simple moral clarity of childhood. "There are a lot of kids at my school whose parents work really hard and are still tired all the time. Then maybe I will start there." They gathered Kit's things, school clothes, his backpack, some books, the components for his science project. Kit also grabbed a framed photo from his nightstand. It showed him and Avery at what looked like a beach, both of them grinning at the camera, sandy and sunburned and happy. "From last summer," Kit said. "Dad saved up for 6 months so we could go to the ocean for 3 days. Best trip ever." Rowan looked at that photo, at the pure joy captured there, and thought about her own vacations. Luxury resorts where she worked from a cabana. First-class flights to conferences in European cities she barely saw beyond hotel ballrooms. She had been to 30 countries and could not remember feeling the kind of happiness that radiated from this $5 frame. "That sounds wonderful," she said softly. They worked on the science project at the small kitchen table. Kit had designed a model showing how solar panels converted sunlight to energy. He explained the whole thing with infectious enthusiasm, his fear temporarily forgotten in the joy of creating something. Rowan helped glue the pieces, following his precise instructions, and found herself genuinely interested. When was the last time she had made something with her hands? When was the last time she had created something that was not a business strategy or financial projection? By 3 o'clock, the project was complete. Kit held it up proudly. "We did it! Dad is going to be so proud. You did it. I just helped with the glue." Rowan smiled. "This is really impressive, Kit. You should be proud of yourself. Can we take a picture to show Dad?" "Of course." Kit posed with his project, grinning. Rowan snapped the photo and sent it to her own phone so she could show Avery later. Then she looked around the apartment, at this small space that held so much love, and made a decision. "Kit, how would you feel about staying at my place for a few days? Just while your dad is in the hospital. You can bring whatever you want to make you comfortable, and we will visit your dad every single day. But I have more space, and it might be easier." Kit hesitated. "Will it make my dad sad? If I stay somewhere nicer?" Rowan knelt down to his level. "Your dad wants you to be safe and comfortable. That is all any good parent wants. This is not about nicer or worse. It is just about making things a little easier while he recovers. We will ask him together, and if he says no, then we will figure out something else. Okay?" "Okay." They packed a bag with a week's worth of clothes, Kit's favorite books, his stuffed elephant that he admitted he still slept with sometimes, and the framed photo. Then they headed back to the hospital. Avery was awake and looking slightly better, some color returning to his face. His whole expression brightened when Kit came running in with the solar project. "Dad, look. We finished it." Avery examined the project with serious attention, asking questions, praising Kit's design. "You are going to blow them away at the science fair, buddy. This is incredible." Rowan took a photo of them together, father and son, with the project between them, and knew she would remember this moment for the rest of her life. This was what mattered. Not board meetings or profit margins. This, connection, pride, love. Later, when Kit went to the bathroom, Rowan approached Avery. "I wanted to ask your permission for something. I would like to have Kit stay at my apartment while you are here. It is closer to his school, and I have the space. But only if you are comfortable with it." Avery's jaw tightened. "How much space?" "A guest bedroom, private bathroom. It is just easier than him being alone in your apartment or me trying to stay there." "Where do you live?" "The Carlisle building, 37th floor." Avery's eyes widened slightly. "That is the most expensive building in the city." "I know. But Kit will have his own space, and I promise I will not make him feel out of place. This is temporary, Avery. Just until you come home." Avery was quiet for a long moment. Finally, he nodded. "Okay, but you bring him here every day to see me. And you do not let him think that your world is normal and ours is not. He needs to understand that when I come home, we go back to our life." "I understand. And Avery, your life is amazing. What you have built for Kit, the love, the stability, the values, that is worth more than any penthouse." "I mean that." Avery looked at her searchingly, then nodded. "Thank you for understanding." When Kit returned, they told him the plan. He seemed excited and nervous in equal measure. "A whole bedroom just for me? Just for a few days," Rowan reminded him. "Then you and your dad go home, and everything goes back to normal." "Normal," Kit repeated. But he was smiling. The drive to the Carlisle building was quiet. Kit pressed his face to the window, watching the city transition from his neighborhood to progressively wealthier areas. The buildings got taller, cleaner, more intimidating. When they pulled up to the Carlisle, with its doorman and marble lobby and crystal chandelier, Kit's eyes went huge. "You live here?" "I do." "Come on." The doorman, Robert, greeted her as always. "Good evening, Miss Thatcher." Then his eyes fell on Kit, and his professional expression faltered slightly. "Robert, this is Kit. He will be staying with me for a few days." "Of course, Miss Thatcher." "Welcome, Kit." The elevator ride to the 37th floor was silent, except for the quiet classical music piped through invisible speakers. Kit stood very still, his backpack clutched in his hands, clearly overwhelmed. When the elevator opened directly into her penthouse, Kit audibly gasped. The space was 3,000 square feet of floor-to-ceiling windows, minimalist furniture, and art that cost more than most people's houses. The city stretched out below them like a glittering carpet, This is where you live. Kit's voice was barely a whisper. By yourself? Yes. It is so big. And so quiet. Rowan heard the observation for what it was. Not admiration, something closer to loneliness. Let me show you your room. She led him down the hallway to the guest bedroom, which she realized, with some embarrassment, was larger than Kit's entire apartment. It had a king-sized bed, its own bathroom, a desk, a reading chair by the window. It was decorated in shades of gray and white. Beautiful. Sterile. Completely inappropriate for a 7-year-old. Kit set his backpack down carefully, as if afraid to disturb anything. This is the nicest room I have ever seen. We can make it more comfortable. Rowan looked around, seeing the space through his eyes. We can move some of this furniture if you want more floor space, and you can put your things wherever you like. I can. Of course. This is your room while you are here. You should make it feel like yours. Kit slowly unpacked his bag. The worn stuffed elephant looked profoundly out of place on the designer bedding. The framed photo of him and Avery sat on the nightstand, a splash of joy and color in the monochrome room. His clothes, carefully folded, went into a drawer that could have held 10 times as many. Rowan watched him and felt something uncomfortable settle in her stomach. Shame, maybe, at how much space she had for just herself, at how empty this beautiful apartment was, at how a child's few belongings barely made a dent in all this expensive nothingness. Are you hungry? She asked. A little. Let me make dinner. They went to the kitchen, which was state-of-the-art and barely used. Rowan opened the refrigerator and realized with embarrassment that it contained sparkling water, some expensive cheese she had forgotten about, and a bottle of white wine. That was it. She started, then stopped. I do not actually cook much, or eat here much. We should order something. What do you like? Pizza? Kit offered tentatively. Pizza is perfect. While they waited for the food, Kit wandered the apartment, looking at everything with wide eyes. He stopped in front of a massive, abstract painting that had cost Rowan $80,000 at auction. What is this? Art. What is it supposed to be? Rowan looked at the painting she had purchased because her decorator said it was important. I have no idea. What do you think it is? Kit tilted his head. Maybe a storm. Or maybe how it feels when you are scared and everything is loud inside your head. Rowan looked at the painting again, really looked, and realized Kit had just given it more meaning in 10 seconds than it had had in 2 years on her wall. I think you are exactly right. The pizza arrived. They ate on the couch because the formal dining table felt too ridiculous. Kit ate 3 slices, clearly hungry despite the hospital cafeteria snacks. Rowan ate one and mostly watched him, this small person in her huge empty space, and wondered how she had ever thought this apartment was a home. After dinner, Kit got ready for bed. He brushed his teeth in the guest bathroom, put on his pajamas, climbed into the enormous bed with his elephant. Rowan tucked him in, something she had never done in her entire life. Will you leave the light on? Kit asked quietly. Just the bathroom light. I do not like it too dark. Of course. She left the bathroom light on, and the door cracked. Kit snuggled into the pillows, looking very small in the very large bed. Rowan, he said as she was about to leave. Thank you for helping us, for helping my dad. You are very welcome, Kit. Do you think he is going to be okay? Really okay? Really okay. The doctors were very clear. He just needs time to heal. Kit nodded, then asked in a very small voice, what if something happens and he does not come home? What happens to me? Rowan came back and sat on the edge of the bed. Nothing is going to happen to your dad. But if you are asking what would happen in an emergency, you would be taken care of. There are systems, people whose job it is to make sure kids are safe. Would I go to strangers? Rowan hesitated, then spoke from somewhere deep and instinctive. No. If something happened, which it will not, but if it did, I would make sure you were okay. I promise you that. Kit's eyes searched her face. Really? Really? He smiled, just a little, and his eyes started to drift closed. Okay. Good night, Rowan. Good night, Kit. She left the room, leaving the door open a crack, and walked back to the living room. She stood at the windows, looking out over the city, and her phone buzzed. A message from Nina. Just checking that you are alive since you canceled your entire week and have not explained why. Rowan typed back. I am fine. Something important came up. I will explain soon. Another message. The board is freaking out about the Singapore meeting. Reschedule it. Rowan, what is going on? She looked back toward the hallway where Kit was sleeping. Something that matters more than a meeting. I will call you tomorrow. She put her phone down and stood there in the silence of her perfect apartment, feeling the weight of the day settle over her. 24 hours ago, she had been a woman with a clear path and a controlled life. Now she had a 7-year-old sleeping in her guest room, a father recovering, in the hospital, and a purpose she had not known she was looking for. Her phone buzzed again. This time it was the hospital. A nurse calling to say Avery had asked them to check that Kit was settled and okay. He is fine, Rowan assured her. Asleep. Safe. Tell Avery everything is good. I will. And Miss Thatcher, thank you for what you are doing. We see a lot of kids in scary situations. It is nice when someone steps up. After she hung up, Rowan walked to her bedroom, changed into pajamas, and lay in her bed, staring at the ceiling. She should sleep. It had been an impossibly long day, but her mind was racing. She thought about Kit's question. What is it supposed to be? He had been talking about the painting, but the question felt larger. What was any of this supposed to be? The penthouse, the company, the success, the money. What was it supposed to be? She had spent 2 decades building an empire to prove she was worth something. To prove she would never be that poor, scared kid again. To prove she did not need anyone. But a 7-year-old boy with a backpack and a stuffed elephant had walked into her. Life had proven that everything she had built was just an expensive way to be alone. Rowan closed her eyes and made a decision. Whatever happened next, however long this lasted, she was going to show up. Not as a billionaire, not as a CEO, just as someone who gave a damn. Someone who stopped when a child asked for help. Someone who remembered what it felt like to need someone, and found the courage to be that someone. For a child who reminded her that the best parts of her had nothing to do with her bank account. She fell asleep with that thought, and for the first time in years slept through the night without waking. Rowan woke to a sound she had never heard in her penthouse before. Laughter. Small, bright, delighted laughter coming from somewhere down the hallway. She sat up, disoriented for a moment, before remembering. Kit. The hospital. Avery. Everything that had happened in the last 36 hours. She grabbed her robe and followed the sound to the kitchen, where she found Kit standing on a chair, in front of the massive windows, watching the sunrise paint the city in shades of gold and pink. I have never seen the sun come up from this high, he said without turning around. It is like being in an airplane, like flying. Rowan stood in the doorway, watching him, and felt something warm spread through her chest. It is beautiful, isn't it? Kit turned, his face glowing with wonder. Do you watch it every morning? No, I usually sleep through it or I am already working. That is sad. This is the best part of the day. You might be right about that. Rowan moved into the kitchen. Are you hungry? I should warn you, I am not much of a cook. That is okay. Dad is teaching me. I can make scrambled eggs if you have eggs. I think I do. Let me check. They found eggs, bread, butter. Kit directed the operation with surprising competence, explaining that his dad had taught him to cook because Brennans take care of themselves and each other. Rowan followed his instructions, cracking eggs while he found a pan. And together, they made a breakfast that was simple and perfect. They ate at the kitchen island, watching the city wake up below them. Kit talked about school, about his science fair presentation that was happening today, about how nervous he was but also excited. Rowan listened and realized this was the first breakfast she had shared with another person in her own home in 5 years. Maybe longer. We should get you to school, she said, when they finished. What time do you need to be there? 8:15. But we have to go to the hospital first to see Dad. I promised. Of course. We will go early, visit your dad, then I will drive you to school. Kit's face lit up. You are coming to school with me? To the science fair? If you want me to. Yes, Dad was going to come, but since he can't, it would be really nice if you could. Then I will be there. They got ready, Rowan in casual clothes that felt strange after years of only wearing power suits. Kit in his school uniform, carefully combing his hair the way his dad had taught him. They drove to the hospital, and Kit ran ahead to his father's room, bursting through the door with an energy that made the nurses smile. Dad, guess what? Rowan made me scrambled eggs this morning. Well, I told her how, but she did the cooking part. And we watched the sunrise from the 37th floor, and it was amazing. Avery was sitting up in bed, looking significantly better than the day before. His color had improved, his eyes were clearer, and when he smiled at his son, it transformed his whole face. "That sounds wonderful, buddy. Did you sleep okay? The bed is really big. Like, really, really big. I got lost in it. But it was comfortable, and Rowan left the bathroom light on like you do." Avery's eyes met Rowan's over Kit's head. "Thank you," he mouthed silently. She nodded. "It was easy. He is a great kid." They visited for an hour, Kit telling his dad about every detail of the penthouse, the doorman, the elevator, the art that might be a storm. Avery listened with complete attention, asking questions, responding with genuine interest. Rowan watched the easy affection between them and felt that familiar ache. This was what she had missed growing up. This was what no amount of money could buy. Finally, she checked her watch. "We should get you to school, Kit. The science fair starts at 9:30. Kit hugged his father carefully, mindful of the bandaged ribs. "I wish you could be there." "Me too, buddy. But you are going to do amazing. Just remember to speak loud and clear and explain it like you explained it to me. You know this stuff inside and out. I will make you proud. You always make me proud. Now go show them what Brennans are made of." In the car on the way to school, Kit was quiet, his fingers drumming nervously on his project board. "You okay?" Rowan asked. "What if I mess up? What if I forget what to say?" Then you take a breath and start again. "Kit, you know this project better than anyone. You built it. You understand it. Just share what you know, and it will be great." "Were you ever nervous when you were a kid? Like for presentations and stuff?" "All the time." Rowan smiled at the memory. "I used to get so nervous before presentations that I would feel sick. But you know what I learned?" "What?" "That being nervous means you care. It means it matters to you. And that is actually a good thing. The trick is not to make the nervousness go away, but to use it. Let it make you sharp, focused, turn it into energy." "How do you do that?" "You just decide that you are going to do your best, and then you do it. You cannot control what happens after. You can only control your effort." Kit thought about this. "Okay, I can do that." The school was a public elementary in Kit's neighborhood, older but well-maintained, with colorful murals on the walls and the cheerful chaos of children everywhere. Kit led Rowan to the gymnasium, where tables were set up with science projects ranging from volcanoes to plant growth experiments. A teacher spotted them and came over. "You must be Kit's father." "Actually, I am a family friend, Rowan Thatcher. His father is in the hospital recovering from an accident, so I am filling in." "Oh my goodness." The teacher, whose name tag read Miss Anderson, looked concerned. "Is he all right?" "He will be fine. Just needs a few days to recover. Kit has been very brave." Miss Anderson smiled at Kit. "Well, I am glad you are here. And Kit, your project looks fantastic. You are at table 7. You will have 15 minutes to set up, and then the judges will come around." Kit set up his solar energy project with meticulous care, arranging everything just so. Other parents hovered around their children, making adjustments, offering advice. Rowan hung back, letting Kit take the lead, only helping when he asked. When the judges came by, Kit stood tall, took a deep breath, and launched into his presentation. He explained photovoltaic cells, energy conversion, renewable resources. He spoke clearly, confidently, with genuine passion for the subject. The judges asked questions, and Kit answered them, thoughtfully even, admitting when he did not know something but offering to research it. When they moved on, Kit let out a huge breath. "I did it. I actually did it. You did amazing." Rowan felt ridiculous pride, as if she had anything to do with his success. "Your dad is going to be so proud." "Can we tell him? Can we go back to the hospital and tell him?" "Absolutely." They waited for the results. Third place went to a project on plant photosynthesis. Second place went to an elaborate weather station. And first place went to Kit Brennan for his solar energy demonstration. When they called his name, Kit's face went through shock, disbelief, and pure joy in about 3 seconds. He walked up to accept his blue ribbon with a grin so wide it looked like it might split his face. On the way back to the hospital, Kit held his ribbon like it was made of gold. "Wait until Dad sees this. Wait until he hears that I won. He is going to be thrilled." They burst into Avery's hospital room with matching grins, and Kit held up the ribbon like a trophy. "First place, Dad. First place." Avery's face did something complicated. Pride and joy and pain all mixed together. He pulled Kit into a careful hug, his voice thick. "I knew you could do it, buddy. I am so proud of you. I told them everything just like you taught me. And I wasn't even that nervous. Well, I was nervous, but Rowan said nervous means you care, so I used it." Avery looked at Rowan over Kit's head, and his expression was unguarded for just a moment. "Thank you," he said quietly, "for being there for him. It was my privilege." Over the next 3 days, a routine developed. Rowan would wake early, make breakfast with Kit, drive to the hospital for morning visits. Then she would work from the hospital waiting room while Kit was at school, coordinating meetings by phone, reviewing documents on her laptop. She would pick Kit up from school, bring him back to the hospital for afternoon visits, then take him home for dinner and homework. Nina had stopped asking questions and started just rolling with it. She had rescheduled everything, deflected board member concerns, and kept Thatcher and Lane Technologies running smoothly despite their CEO's sudden absence from the office. When Rowan finally explained the situation during a phone call, Nina was silent for a long moment. "So you are just, what, playing parent for a kid you met 4 days ago?" "I am helping a child whose father is in the hospital. That is all." "That is not all, and you know it." Nina's voice was gentle. "Rowan, I have worked for you for 8 years. I have never heard you sound like this." "Like what?" "Happy." Rowan looked across her penthouse to where Kit was sprawled on the living room floor doing math homework. "I am not happy. I am just busy." "Sure, if you say so. But for the record, whatever this is, it looks good on you." The hospital visits became the highlight of Rowan's days. She would sit in Avery's room while Kit did homework or played quiet games, and she would talk to Avery. Really talk, not networking small talk or business negotiation, real conversation. She learned that Avery had grown up in foster care, never knowing his parents, that he had aged out of the system at 18 with nothing but determination and a fierce desire to be better than his circumstances, that he had been working as a bike messenger when a woman he briefly dated got pregnant, told him, and then disappeared before Kit was born, leaving him a note with the hospital information and a simple message. "His name is Kit. He is yours." "I cannot do this." "So you raised him alone from birth?" Rowan was awed, did not have much choice. "But honestly, he is the best thing that ever happened to me. Being his dad, it gave me purpose, made me want to be someone worthy of him." "You are." Rowan's voice was fierce. "Kit is incredible, Avery. He is kind and brave and smart. That is all you." Avery looked embarrassed but pleased. "I just tried to do what I wish someone had done for me. Be present. Be consistent. Love him no matter what. That is everything." They talked about her childhood, her mother's death, the years of clawing her way up. Avery listened with complete attention, asking thoughtful questions, never judging. He was easy to talk to, this man who had been through his own fire and come out stronger. On the 4th day, the doctor came in with good news. "You are healing ahead of schedule. If everything continues like this, we can discharge you tomorrow." Kit cheered. Avery smiled. But Rowan felt something unexpected. Disappointment. Because once Avery was released, this strange little bubble they had been living in would pop. Kit would go back to his apartment. Avery would recover. And Rowan would go back to her empty penthouse and her full calendar, and everything would return to normal. Except she did not want normal anymore. That night, after Kit was asleep, Rowan sat at her desk and made some calls. To her real estate contact, to her HR director, to her lawyer. By midnight, she had a plan. She just needed the courage to present it. The next morning, she and Kit arrived early to help Avery pack his few belongings. The doctor came in with discharge papers and a list of instructions. Rest for 2 weeks. Physical therapy for the ribs. Follow-up appointment in 1 week. Light duty only for at least a month. Avery nodded, taking it all in, but Rowan could see the tension in his jaw. He was already worrying about work, about money, about how he would manage. "All set?" Rowan asked when the paperwork was done. "All set." Avery stood slowly, still moving carefully, and accepted Kit's help getting his jacket on. "Let us go home." They drove to Kit's apartment in silence. When they arrived, Avery looked up at the building and took a deep breath. Home. They climbed the stairs slowly, Avery pausing twice to catch his breath. When they reached apartment 4C, he opened the door and stepped inside. then stopped. The apartment was spotless. The heat worked perfectly. The refrigerator hummed quietly but efficiently. Fresh flowers sat on the small kitchen table. "What?" Avery started, then stopped. "I had some people come in," Rowan said quickly, "just to make sure everything was working. I hope that is okay." Avery walked to the refrigerator and opened it. It was fully stocked with healthy food, fresh produce, everything organized and labeled. He turned to her, his expression complicated. "Rowan, I know you said not to do too much, but you are recovering. You need good food and a warm place to rest. This is not charity. This is just making sure you can focus on healing instead of worrying about logistics. This is too much. It is really not. To me, this is nothing. But to you right now, recovering, it is everything. Please, just accept it." Avery looked at his son, who was watching the exchange with wide eyes, then back at Rowan. He nodded slowly. "Thank you, but we are square now, okay? You have done more than enough. Actually, there is one more thing." Rowan pulled an envelope from her bag. "I wanted to talk to you about something." "What is this?" "A job offer. From my company." Avery's expression shuddered immediately. "No, you have not even looked at it. I do not need to. I am not taking a job because you feel sorry for me. It is not about feeling sorry." Rowan kept her voice calm. "Avery, you are smart, organized, dedicated. You manage complex logistics loading trucks. My company needs someone to manage operations at our warehouse facility. It is a real job. It pays well. It has benefits, including health insurance and paid time off. I am offering it because I think you would be good at it, not because I pity you. I only have a high school education. So did my operations director when I hired him. I care about competence and character, not credentials. Look at the offer. Think about it. If you decide no, that is fine, but at least consider it." Avery took the envelope but did not open it. "I will think about it. That is all I ask." There was an awkward silence. Finally, Kit spoke up. "Rowan, are you leaving now?" She looked at this little boy who had somehow carved out a space in her heart in less than a week. "I should probably let you and your dad settle back in." "Oh." Kit's face fell. "Okay, but I will visit, if that is okay with your dad." Avery nodded. "Of course, you are always welcome here." Rowan gathered her things, and Kit walked her to the door. When she knelt down to say goodbye, he surprised her by hugging her tightly. "Thank you for taking care of me, and for taking care of my dad." "You are very welcome, Kit. You can call me any time, okay? If you need anything, okay?" She stood, and Avery was there, leaning against the doorframe. "Thank you," he said quietly, "for everything. I do not know how to repay this. You do not have to. Just get better. Be there for your son. That is enough." She left before she could say anything else, before she could admit how much she did not want to leave, how empty her penthouse was going to feel, how these few days had shown her what she had been missing all along. The penthouse was exactly as she had left it. Perfect, silent, empty. Rowan stood at the windows looking out over the city and felt the loneliness settle over her like a weight. Her phone buzzed. A message from Nina. "Welcome back to the land of the living. Your calendar is booked solid starting tomorrow. Hope your little vacation was worth it." "It was," Rowan typed back. "It really was." That night, she could not sleep. She wandered her apartment, looking at all the expensive things that meant nothing. She thought about Kit's drawings on the refrigerator, about Avery's careful budgeting and fierce love, about pancakes on Thursday and art on Sunday, and a life built not on money, but on meaning. Her phone rang at 2 in the morning. She grabbed it, heart pounding. Kit's name on the screen. "Kit, what is wrong? Is your dad okay?" "He is fine." Kit's voice was small. I could not sleep. I got used to the big bed and the city lights, and now everything feels different, and I know that is silly, but it is not silly. Change is hard, even when it is good change. Can I ask you something? Anything. Do you think, would it be okay if we still had breakfast sometimes? Like maybe on weekends? You and me and Dad?" Rowan felt her throat tighten. "I would really like that, Kit." "Okay, good." Kit yawned. "I'm going to try to sleep now. Good night, Rowan. Good night, Kit." She hung up and stood in her dark living room and made a decision. She was not going back to the way things were. She could not. These people had changed her, shown her what mattered, and she was not going to waste that gift. The next morning, she went into the office for the first time in a week. Her executive team looked relieved to see her. The board members who had been calling Nina incessantly relaxed. Everything was fine. The company had survived her absence. But Rowan was different. She sat in meetings and heard herself speaking about profit margins and quarterly projections, and it all felt hollow. She looked around the conference table at people who worked 80-hour weeks and had no lives outside these walls, and she saw herself, saw what she had been, saw what she did not want to be anymore. That evening, she left at 6 o'clock. Her assistant stared. "You are leaving? Now? I have dinner plans." "With who?" "Friends." She drove to Kit's apartment with takeout from a nice restaurant. Not too fancy, nothing that would make Avery uncomfortable, just good food. When she knocked, Kit opened the door with a huge grin. "Rowan, you came. I told you I would." Avery appeared behind him, moving slowly but steadier than before. He looked surprised. "I thought you were joking about visiting." "I do not joke about food. I brought dinner. Chinese, okay?" They ate at the small kitchen table. The three of them crammed around a space meant for two. Kit chattered about school. Avery asked questions. Rowan listened and talked and laughed, really laughed, and thought this might be the best meal she had ever had. After dinner, while Kit played in his room, Avery and Rowan sat on the couch. "So," Avery said, "I looked at the job offer, and it is generous. More than generous. The salary alone is 3 times what I was making. It is market rate for that position. Rowan, why are you really doing this?" She turned to face him fully. "Because you deserve a chance. Because Kit deserves stability. Because I have resources and you have need, and it would be morally wrong not to help when I can. And," she hesitated, "because over the last week, you and Kit have shown me what I have been missing. What actually matters. You have given me something I did not know I needed. Let me give you something in return. What did we give you? Purpose, connection, a reason to wake up that is not about winning or succeeding or proving something. You reminded me what it feels like to be human." Avery was quiet for a long moment. "If I take this job, I need you to promise me something. Anything. You have to let me earn it. I do not want special treatment. I do not want people knowing I only got hired because of you. I want to succeed or fail on my own merit. Deal." Rowan extended her hand. "You start Monday. And Avery, you are going to be great at this." He shook her hand, his grip firm and warm. "Thank you for believing in me. In us." Over the next few months, everything changed. Avery started at Thatcher and Lane Technologies and exceeded every expectation. He was organized, efficient, innovative in his approach to logistics. Within 6 weeks, he had streamlined their distribution system and saved the company $200,000. People respected him not because of his connection to Rowan, but because he was damn good at his job. Kit flourished with the stability. New school closer to Avery's work. Consistent meals, regular schedule. He joined the science club, made new friends, started talking about maybe being an engineer when he grew up, and Rowan found herself spending more and more time with them. Weekend breakfasts became a tradition. She would show up Saturday mornings with fresh bagels, and they would eat together while Kit worked on art projects and Avery read the paper. She started attending Kit's school events, science fairs, art shows, the winter concert where Kit played the recorder enthusiastically if not always accurately. She noticed other things too. The way Avery smiled when she walked into a room. The way his hand would brush hers when they both reached for something. The way conversations that used to be about logistics and schedules had deepened into real intimacy. They talked about books, about philosophy, about their fears and dreams. One Saturday evening, after Kit had gone to bed, Avery and Rowan sat on his couch with mugs of tea. It had become their ritual. Kit to bed at 8. Then an hour or two of quiet conversation before Rowan went home. "Can I ask you something?" Avery said, his voice careful. "Of course. Why are you still here?" "Not in a bad way. I just mean, you have done so much for us already. You got me the job. Kit is stable. We are okay. You do not have to keep coming around. What if I want to? Why would you want to spend your weekends in a tiny apartment eating pancakes when you could be, I do not know, doing billionaire things? Because this is better. Rowan set down her mug. Avery, before I met you and Kit, I had everything and nothing, money and success and an empty life. Coming here, being with you two, it is the first time I have felt like I matter for reasons that have nothing to do with my bank account. You matter. You have always mattered. Not like this. You and Kit, you see me. Not my company or my money. Just me. Do you have any idea how rare that is? Avery looked at her for a long moment. For the record, he said quietly, I see you. And I like what I see. The air between them shifted. Charged. Rowan felt her breath catch. Avery, I know this is complicated. I know I work for your company. I know our lives are different. But I would be lying if I said I did not think about you. A lot. I think about you too. Yeah? Yeah. So what do we do about that? Rowan leaned forward, closing the space between them. I think we stop overthinking it. She kissed him, softly at first, tentative, giving him a chance to pull back. He did not. Instead, his hand came up to cup her face, and he kissed her back with a tenderness that made her heart ache. It was not urgent or passionate. It was something better. It was real. When they finally pulled apart, Avery rested his forehead against hers. Well, he said, slightly breathless, that was unexpected. Good unexpected? Very good unexpected. But Rowan, we need to be smart about this. Kit has to come first. And my job, I cannot have people thinking, I know. We will be careful. We will take it slow. We will make sure Kit is comfortable. But Avery, I am not walking away from this. From you. Good. Because I do not want you to. They sat there in the quiet of his apartment, holding hands, and Rowan thought about how strange life was. A year ago she would have laughed at the idea of falling for someone who had nothing, who lived in a tiny apartment and raised a kid alone and worked with his hands. But now she understood that Avery had everything that mattered. Integrity, kindness, courage, love, and she was falling for him hard. Over the next few months they navigated their new relationship with care. No public displays at work, separate professional and personal lives. But in private, in the safe space of his apartment or her penthouse when Kit stayed with a friend, they built something real. She learned that Avery was a terrible cook except for breakfast foods, that he read philosophy and history in his spare time, that he had opinions about architecture and urban planning that were surprisingly sophisticated, that he was gentle and thoughtful and made her laugh with dry wit that caught her off guard. He learned that she was competitive about board games, that she could not sing but did anyway when she thought no one was listening, that she had never learned to ride a bike, that beneath the polished CEO exterior was a woman who was funny and warm and desperately wanted to be loved for herself. Kit noticed the shift before they officially told him. One Sunday morning over pancakes, he looked between them and grinned. Are you guys dating? Rowan and Avery exchanged glances. Would that be okay with you if we were? Avery asked carefully. Kit rolled his eyes with the exasperation of the very young. Obviously. You both smile all the time now. It is kind of gross, but also nice. So, you are okay with it? Dad, Rowan is the coolest. She helped save you. She helped us. She makes you happy. Why would I not be okay with it? Avery pulled his son into a hug. You are pretty wise for 8 years old. You know that? I know. They laughed, and something settled in Rowan's chest. This was family, not defined by blood or legal documents, defined by choice and love and showing up day after day. But not everyone was supportive. At work, whispers started. The CEO was dating an employee, someone from the warehouse floor no less. It was inappropriate. It was unprofessional. The board had concerns. Rowan faced them in a closed-door meeting, her expression steely. My personal life is personal. Avery Brennan was hired on merit and has exceeded every performance metric. If any of you have concerns about his work, present them. Otherwise, this conversation is over. But Rowan, one board member pressed, the optics. The optics are that I am a human being with a personal life. I have given this company 15 years. I have made every single one of you wealthy beyond measure. I am allowed to have a relationship. The board backed down, but the damage was done. Avery heard the gossip, heard the whispers that he had slept his way to a promotion he had not earned. It ate at him. One night, he pulled back, told Rowan they needed to slow down, that he could not handle people thinking he was using her, that it was affecting his work. his reputation. So what? You were just going to end this? Rowan felt panic rising. Because people are talking. I am not good enough for you, Rowan. We both know it. You deserve someone from your world. Someone who can stand beside you at those fancy events without people whispering that you are slumming it. Do not do that. Do not tell me what I deserve. I deserve someone who sees me, who loves me for who I am, not what I have. That is you, Avery. That has only ever been you. But Kit is happy. We are all happy. Are you really going to throw that away because you care what people think? They are talking about you too, saying you have lost your edge, that you are distracted. I do not want to be the reason your company suffers. My company is fine. My life is finally fine. Please do not do this. But Avery was scared, and fear made him stubborn. He pulled back, stopped coming to her penthouse, kept things professional at work. It broke both of them. Kit noticed immediately. Why does not Rowan come over anymore? She is just busybody. Work stuff. That is a lie. You had a fight. We did not fight. We just... Avery struggled to explain. Sometimes grown-up relationships are complicated. That is dumb. Kit crossed his arms. She makes you happy. You make her happy. I like having her around. Why are you being weird? Because I am trying to protect all of us. From what? From me not being enough. Kit stared at his father with the clear-eyed wisdom of children. Dad, you are the best person I know, and Rowan thinks so too. If you push her away because you are scared, that is the dumbest thing ever. Out of the mouths of babes. That night, Avery could not sleep. He lay in bed thinking about Rowan, about how she had stopped for Kit that night in the snow, how she had stayed at the hospital, how she had looked at him like he was someone worth seeing, how she had kissed him like he was someone worth loving, and he thought about his fear, the fear of not being enough, the fear of people judging them, the fear that had ruled so much of his life since he aged out of foster care with nothing. He was tired of being afraid. The next morning he called in sick to work. Then he called Rowan. Can we talk? In person? She arrived at his apartment looking guarded, her armor back up. What do you want, Avery? I want to apologize. I want to tell you that I was wrong, that I let fear make my decisions and that was stupid. He took a breath. I love you, Rowan. I am in love with you, and I have been so scared of not being enough that I almost threw away the best thing that has ever happened to me besides Kit. Rowan's armor cracked. You love me? I love you. I love your intelligence and your strength and the way you laugh at Kit's terrible jokes. I love how you are learning to cook even though you are terrible at it. I love that you stopped for a scared kid on a frozen street and changed all of our lives. I love you, and I am done being afraid of it. Tears were streaming down her face now. I love you too. I have loved you for months, and when you pulled away, it felt like I was losing everything that mattered. I am sorry. I am so sorry. Can we try again? For real this time? Yes. He kissed her, and it felt like coming home, like the end of running and the beginning of staying. When Kit came home from school that afternoon, he found them on the couch, holding hands. About time, he said, and went to get a snack. Over the next year, they built a life together, carefully. Intentionally, Rowan cut back her hours at work, delegating more, trusting her team. She started a foundation focused on helping single parents, providing resources and support and childcare. She funded scholarships for kids from foster care in Avery's honor. Avery continued to excel at work, eventually being promoted to senior operations director on his own merit. Kit thrived in school, made the honor roll, joined the robotics team. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, they became a family. Not legally, not on paper, but in every way that mattered. Dinners together, weekend trips, inside jokes, shared routines. A life built not on grand gestures but on showing up day after day, choosing each other. 1 year to the day after Kit had found Rowan on that frozen street, they went back to the spot where it had all begun. All three of them standing on the same sidewalk where a terrified child had asked a stranger for help. Do you remember what you said to me? Rowan asked Kit. Please, I need help. My dad did not come home. Kit smiled. I was so scared. You were so brave. You saved yourself. And maybe you saved me too. Kit looked between them, these two people who had somehow become his whole world. I think we all saved each other, and He was right. This was not a story about a billionaire saving a poor family. This was a story about three people who were lost in different ways, finding each other and choosing to build something together, choosing love over fear, connection over isolation, family over everything else. So if you are still with me, if you have stayed for this whole journey, I want to ask you something. When was the last time you stopped? When was the last time you heard someone asking for help and actually helped? When was the last time you let yourself be vulnerable enough to need someone? Because here is what I have learned from Rowan and Avery and Kit. Success is not measured in dollars or titles or achievements. It is measured in connections, in the people who know you and love you anyway, in the moments you choose humanity over convenience. Rowan Thatcher had $1 billion and an empty penthouse. Now she has a family. She has pancakes on Saturday mornings, and science fairs, and art projects on the refrigerator. She has a partner who sees her, and a child who trusts her, and a life that matters for reasons that have nothing to do with quarterly earnings. And it all started because she made one choice: to stop, to listen, to say yes to a child who needed help. I want you to think about that. Think about the moments you have walked past, the people you have ignored because helping was inconvenient, the walls you have built to protect yourself from connection. And then I want you to make a different choice. Stop. Listen. Let people in. Risk being changed by them, because the greatest wealth you will ever have is not in your bank account. It is in the people who know your name and mean it when they ask how you are. Drop a comment right now and tell me about a time someone helped you when they did not have to, or about a time you helped someone and it changed you. Share your story. Let us build a community of people who understand that we are all just doing our best, and sometimes the bravest thing we can do is ask for help or offer it. If this story touched you, and I mean really touched you, share it. Send it to someone who needs to hear it. Someone who is so focused on success they have forgotten about significance. Someone who is struggling alone because they are afraid to ask for help. Someone who just needs to be reminded that goodness still exists in this world. Subscribe to Love and Twilights with Dr. Phillips, because we are not just here to tell stories. We are here to remember what it means to be human, to connect, to love, to show up for each other even when it is hard, especially when it is hard. Next week, I am bringing you a story about a wedding photographer who has captured thousands of perfect moments for other people while running from her own chance at love. Until one wedding day when the groom does not show up and she has to decide whether to stay behind the camera or step into her own story. You do not want to miss it. But before I go, I want to leave you with this. 5 years after that frozen October night, Rowan Thatcher stood in a much different apartment. Bigger, warmer, filled with noise and life and love. Kit was 13 now, all long limbs and changing voice, still brilliant and kind. Avery was beside her, his hand in hers, planning dinner while Kit argued about homework. And on the refrigerator, among the drawings and photos and permission slips and evidence of a full life, was a single ribbon. Blue. First place. From a science fair 5 years ago, when a 7-year-old boy proved that even when you are scared, even when you are alone, even when everything looks dark, you can still be brave. You can still ask for help. You can still believe that someone will stop and listen and care. That ribbon stayed on the refrigerator as a reminder, not of winning, but of the moment everything changed. The moment a stranger became family. The moment fear became courage. The moment 3 lost people found each other and built something beautiful. So let me ask you one more time. What would you do if someone asked for your help? Would you stop? Would you listen? Would you be brave enough to let it change you? I hope you would, because the world needs more people who stop, more people who listen, more people who understand that we are all connected, all struggling, all just trying to find our way home. And sometimes home is not a place. It is the people who see you and stay anyway. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening to this story. Thank you for being part of this community that believes love and kindness and human connection still matter, still change lives, still save people in ways both big and small. Hit that like button if this story moved you. Comment below with your own story of unexpected connection. Share this video with someone who needs hope. And subscribe, because every week we are going to gather here and remember together that despite everything, despite all the darkness and difficulty and pain, there is still so much goodness in this world. So much love, so much possibility. I am Dr. Phillips, and I believe that the best stories are not the ones we read or watch. They are the ones we live. The ones we create every time we choose courage over fear, connection over isolation, love over everything else. See you next week, family. Until then, keep your hearts open. Keep your eyes watching for people who need help. And keep believing that one small choice, one moment of kindness, one decision to stop and listen can change everything. Everything.